So what do we mean when we say autistic people have spiky profiles? Well, having a spiky profile is all to do with an autistic person's development. As autism is a different developmental profile, that means as we go through life, we will develop differently. We will reach different milestones, different life stages in a different way at a different rate than others. As our brains do work differently, we also have a different understanding of social situations, of what is logical, what is common sense to us. We have a different kind of common sense. What this looks like in practice is it may mean that your child can do certain things that other children cannot at that age. So they're ahead of their age in some areas, but they're also behind in other ways. Again, these terms ahead and behind don't make so much sense because we're talking about a different developmental profile, which means we develop differently. So we may be at the exact right milestones for us, but because they look different than everybody else in society, it could look a bit unusual to you. Some examples of a spiky profile might be that an autistic person can play the piano, but can struggle to tie their own shoelaces. That an autistic person may be able to draw and paint really well, but may not be able to get dressed on their own in the morning. Or that an autistic teenager may be able to get to school on their own and navigate traffic and all those complex things fine, but may, when at home, be unable to make their own bed. Now, these seem like very strange examples. If somebody can walk to school on their own, surely they can make their own bed. Making your own bed is simpler, right? And you know, to me, to my logic, I agree with you. It sounds like one is simpler than the other, but we are talking about people whose minds develop differently, children whose minds develop differently, and that means certain things make more sense to them. What we've got to understand is when we do any task, there is a lot of different elements that go into it. So we talk about autistic people having sensory differences. They will affect how someone engages with tasks, how someone breaks down, how someone organizes their thoughts, what someone imagines. So we think of those bigger body senses of proprioception, your muscle. And then if we think of your body sense of balance, your vestibular sense, those things, movement, coordination, that's going from one location to another location. And thus it is distance. And it's time as well. It's the time it takes us to get. It's sequencing, it's staging. If an autistic person struggles around the sensory side of their body and their body movement, they're also going to have more difficulty with organizing their thoughts, organizing tasks, sequencing things, breaking stuff down, and the amount of time it takes to do something. And that's the sensory side there. Whereas that individual person may actually be fine with other things. An individual that has a great knowledge of a particular subject may be able to do maths to do with that subject because they understand how that subject works, how the maths applies. But then if you ask them about the maths behind money, they might not understand at all because that's abstract to them. They don't have all the information around it they might have for that subject. Sometimes we call those kind of things splinter skills, where someone has a specific skill set in an area, but even though to us that knowledge should apply, i.e. that you have good math skills around photography or the ordering and sequencing of, Excel spreadsheets, strange examples, but then you can't do money management skills. Surely it's the same maths, it's addition, it's subtraction. Why can't you? Well, it's because those maths have completely different contexts. And with splinter skills, someone can't necessarily apply the knowledge from one place to another because that context is so monumentally different. Now, you will also face the same problems in your life. There's probably things that actually you've got a lot of knowledge about that can be applied to something new, but it takes you time to apply that information. It takes you to sit down and to think about it. The same can be true of an autistic person, or especially an autistic child. What I'm trying to say here is that your autistic child will develop differently. There may be some things that they pick up easily. There may be other things they find hard. That's the same with all children. Just with autistic children, it's more obvious. And the things they struggle with, we deem as more problematic. But they don't have to be problematic. Because there's a lot of worrying messages in society about autistic people being incapable, not being able to look after themselves, they'll always need support. We can often feel that when we see children fail to meet those milestones, that they're always going to be that way, or they're always going to struggle, or how are they going to survive without me, or how are they going to look after themselves when they're older. Some things take longer. Some things maybe they will always need support around. We all as humans need support from our loved ones, from our family, from our partners, from our friends. That can be absolutely okay. The thing that you see right now, and you're looking at your child and thinking, how is this going to work in the future? That may not be an issue. And a lot of issues we see in childhood are not necessarily issues in adulthood. There's all things when we start doing them, they're complicated, they're difficult. And in time, maybe we get them. And as we understand, or as we're not under as much stress, or we have more understanding of ourselves and how the world works, and maybe we've had more freedom and demands have been taken of us, and our life fundamentally changes as we grow, we may gain a better ability to grasp them. I hope that this explanation has been helpful. If you can think of any better examples, or any examples of you when you were younger, the things that you could understand and the things that you couldn't understand, that would be helpful to every parent that comes along to watch this video. Maybe they've had those messages when they grow up, their children will never be in relationships or will never be able to live independently. And the things you put in the comments could be really helpful in them having a sense of hope. And if they have hope in their children, then that's positive for them, their stress, and their children's lives. So please do.